Good morning, good day. Um, yeah, two in one day. So, and I apologize. The first one wanted to come through. I didn't even realize I didn't pull my microphone out. Um, so this kind of feels this wanted to come in, and I've been kind of feeling this for a while, and then it kind of really came in after I did the video and when I opened the door this morning. So I think this might be kind of like a kind of a series, maybe a couple videos with this because I feel like it's going to continue to evolve as we go through it. But I think what wants to come through is the masculine initiation process. So what does that look like? What does that feel? Because it's kind of like I don't know. I don't yeah, we'll see if this comes in. So there's a lot of energy that's coming in. Originally, I was going to kind of like, when I first tapped into it, I was going to separate it and be like, okay, like this is the divine masculine's kind of initiation, and then like separate some things from it and then do another one. But it was just like, nope, it's all together. So we'll kind of open that up. So the masculine kind of like initiation process. So what is it? Why is it so heavy? How does it take place? How is it even possible, right? Because you can look at the kind of like physical representation, and I'll be careful here because there's like a lot of generalizations you can do about men and masculines, and it's not one size fits all. So I'll speak about my journey as best I can, and then whatever wants to come through. So if something wants to come through, I'll be hands off and be like, okay, those are the words. But in my experience, so there's an old template that I don't think is correct anymore. So, and it has been in place for a long time, and that is that the emotions that the masculine can't process, the feminine would process. And that doesn't have to be conscious for that to occur. That's kind of like an automatic energetic template that's running in the background. And I've experienced that firsthand, and it's kind of like it was a horror to kind of realize. But I don't think it's correct anymore, and that's kind of weeding out. But what does that mean is that like the masculine, of course he is 100% capable of dealing with his emotions, but for eons it's been that you froze that off because of other things. So everything happened the way it was supposed to, so there's no critiquing, especially looking into the past and opening up the book or even looking through the stream of life and seeing it all and being like, no, like it's okay. Like all of that happened, the wars, the horrors, like all of that. You can open it up and be like, okay, it's okay, and it's understandable why you would jump out because it's a lot to kind of like process and entail while you're trying to hold the protecting kind of force. The way I've kind of seen it a couple of times is so the masculine has been kind of like, where does this want to go? Because there's so much energy and I need to kind of like categorize it. What wants to come in now? Okay. So the activation of the masculine presence and the removal of the past template from the physical 3D, if you want to say that, reality. That takes place very, very interesting. So, in my experience, how this happens, and it's not something that you can kind of initiate. So, it's not Connor coming in and being like, know what? Today I'm going to do this. There is kind of a participation always that has to happen. But in my experience, this is kind of like your soul kind of coming in and being like, nope, you can't do this anymore. How I see that happening is that when this happens, you, as a masculine energy, like in the physical, like the how it works is that you kind of like you can just build things very easily. And I will say easily, but it is kind of like it's a natural kind of framework. It's just like, no, you do this, and then everything kind of just builds and falls into place. And you're just like, okay, great. Now, there is this kind of like willful kind of force that comes in with that, just like, oh, I'm just going to build this. And when you do that, it's kind of like it's how you can kind of build a life and make things work, but it's like you're not quite happy because there's a surrendering aspect to this as well. But this is kind of like this is how empires are built, right? You build one thing, but it's like the pursuit of something and you're just continuously building. And then when you get there, it's kind of like not saying that everybody that's like built an empire is not happy, but when you do that, you're now like sustaining the entire thing and there's not as much surrender to all of it. Now it needs to happen like when all of this, so we'll kind of be delicate with all of this, but when it's coming in like that, this is how the masculine can work. It's like works in the physical very well. It's very tapped into the energetics, the emotional side of it, especially when you're building something, because there can be like this grinding that happens with different energies. Like when you're building like classic example, when you build a house, like think of the days of old when you're building a log cabin in, let's say, North America, like the old trappers that were doing that. Okay, cut down the trees, you know, clear out a space and then set it up and all that kind of stuff. Now, I'm sure that it's not across the board, but did you kind of like ask each individual tree before you cut it down? Was it aligned? Was it, and if it wasn't, then that's kind of like this emotional backdrop that kind of gets shoved into the system, but it gets frozen because you're not going to deal with it. You built it, you want to continue on. And then think about it like that house every generation forward, like you have to put that much energy to sustain it, right? Because it's your sustaining it. But it's not woven with everything because it's a different kind of framework. So then it requires more and more of your energy to kind of like after each generation down the ancestral line to keep that template in place. And when that happens, it's kind of like that's how you were able to build, right? You always do this, but you have to freeze it. So then it's just stuck and it's in the process, it's in the field, it's in the masculine line, and it's there to be resolved. And you can apply this to so many different things. So, actually, the process of embodying, how I've seen it, is not kind of like it's not initiated in the way that it just kind of like it's kind of something that happens and it happens divinely because in my what happened to me and what I was shown is that you're kind of going this way. And how I've experienced it is that with the old template, you kind of hit this point, this wall. And if you continue, um, it's okay. Like, what if you continue on that way? Like, you can go as far as you can, but the energy that's going to be sustaining you from your true self, from your soul, is going to start. That's like a faucet that starts turning off. So it gets harder and harder, and you have to put more and more and more energy until there's this point where your internal organs, your internal light gets sucked off, and it's like it's turning off the faucet. So your energy, your willpower, you're putting it all in and you're pushing and you're directing your energy in a certain way and you're pushing and pushing and pushing and like you can achieve a lot. And when you get to that point, it's almost like it hits this wall and the internal things that have been held off no longer come and they come surging up first. And because you went that direction, the tap to your soul is kind of like, it's quiet. So it feels like a true kind of like in the belly of the beast moment. And your energy is kind of like to this point where it's so stretched so thin that it's like, okay, do I continue? And it self implodes. Because it to continue on that way, like you literally pushed all your will energy to this point to create all this way. And from source, from your soul, it's kind of like, nope, not anymore. You can't go any further. And, but I'm me. I can control my life. I'm the ruler of my life. Fuck this. I can go forward. And it hit that point, and it's just like, nope. And you self implode, and you're like in this muck, and it can be extremely heavy, extremely heavy. And then when you finally accept that, just be like, okay, I guess I'm not in control. I'm not the one that can decide things. And just like when that part finally kind of like bows its head and be like, okay, you get this spark of life come back in, but you can never work the way you did. And it's almost kind of funny because in my experience looking back on it, I'm just like, wow, I had so much power, so much energy to push as far as I did. And now it's just like, nope. And my system, and in that moment, what I experienced is that in my particular situation, and I don't think it's for everybody that goes through this, but I became so bitter. And it was an energy that was like running through my system because there was a point within my being that was crystallized that was just like, nope, I have to ask my heart first. I have to ask my soul first. I can't do anything, but I'm not going to be happy about it. So, and that energy needed to kind of like be digested and like moved and surrendered and like really kind of relaxed. And that's kind of like the real thing because it's like it's such a protector force. It's such a engineer. It's such a beautiful energy. It really, really is. But when it's like so caught up in protecting the system, like it can actually put all these energies that need to be digested and look at it as poison and be like, nope, no, no, don't know what to do with that. So we're going to encase it and freeze it nice and be okay with it. And then just like continue, continue, continue. And then that stuff gets locked up. And it's like, no wonder that like an experience like going to the heart of everything, like really connecting to and being grounded all the way through and embodied through the masculine line is like a little bit more, how should I say? Yeah, it's a little bit, it's a different kind of story because it's, you have to go through all that kind of stuff because it's still there. It's encased. And that's okay. It's like through the masculine collective as a whole. Like you can look at it when I talk about all the wars and all that energy, it's like it's still there because it's just like that's what the masculine energy holds. And like when you're building all this kind of stuff and then the switch into the new energy, like this is where it gets really fascinating because everybody can look at it and be like, yeah, I don't know. Like it feels like for masculines in general, like men, it's just like there's so much that has to happen. It's just like, well, it can happen really quick. And it's interesting because, and it's almost like it clicks in, it happens. And then you're actually surrendering into the flow. It's not you kind of step because you've done that so long. That's your energy go to, right? You take the step forward. Like that's a really masculine kind of energy. You take the step forward. I'm gonna go do this. And then what my experience was, it was kind of like somebody kind of just leading me along the way and just like, nope, like you have to be retrained. Like your system has to be kind of like flushed out. And just like, and now you have to ask and listen and surrender. And like, you can't hold on. It's like all your creations can be gone and it's okay. It's like you're always at home. It's like coming into an embodiment process where you're always home. So your creations aren't something that is like this scarcity where you need to hold on to it. And yeah, yeah. It's like whatever's pure doesn't need to be like you don't need to hold that and be that thing at the detriment of yourself. You don't need to be that guard that holds it if you're going to self sacrifice. It's like it's not harmonious to all the energies because your presence by itself becomes that. But it's not like you have to hold a template in place and really sacrifice yourself for that. Because that was the ways of old. Like that was the, I can feel it within my system, like the knights, the whole thing. Like you make a vow and you, not saying sacrifices aren't like, sacrifices are really a crucial part of everything. Like it really is, because you like are giving up something that is really enjoyable. Like if you ever done like a fast or something like that, or like a process, like giving up like chocolate or food, if you're doing like a water fast, like that's a sacrifice. But like sacrificing your joy, your what the potential of your entire song, so that you become this one little template to hold this and be the guard, and just be like, okay, like that energy, it's just by you being present that that can come in and just be sustained, because you're all of that and you're loved, you're so much more. So that's where the difference is. And the the frantic kind of energy of, you know, really protecting things, like that feels so old to me. Like because it's the, my experience, the masculine energy is kind of like this, kind of like it's holding the framework of, a lot of times how I've seen it is like it's holding the framework for the feminine, right? It's not like we can hold each ourselves. I'm not saying that that's always the process, but like that's so running within the masculine system. But when it's kind of like cut off from the true the true energy of everything that's running through everything, it's kind of like it, all these wars and this protecting, like you're so frantic of just being like, no, 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 I'm going to be the last line of defense against this. And it needed to happen. But like the story of the burning of Alexandria, like all those books that were burned, is like all that knowledge is still within. It's like you can let them go. And that's the same with all the hardships of the past and all that kind of stuff. Like it's okay to let it go. It's more important to drop in to the true nature of who you truly are than it is to do that. It really is. And when you look at everything, like the warrior energy as a whole, that, you know, is masculine and feminine, but definitely in the masculine energy, the warrior masculine energy is fucking exhausted. Like if you take into that, if you tap into that energy, it's really tired. It's really tired. It's been doing this for a long time, but it doesn't know. It's like it's what it signed up for, but it's tired, and it's the old way, and you can retire, retire that way of being. It's not that the warrior doesn't have any place to be, like it doesn't have any energy of what it is, but you don't have to be that energy anymore. And this process can continue. And so the masculine initiation, it's kind of like that breath of life. It's a start. Yeah, so this will be, I'll leave it here because this was not, I'm going to leave it how it is, but this was not as clear cut as was because we jumped all over the place. But this will be the start of something, and we'll kind of like, we'll set up a step by step on what wants to come through, because in the masculine initiation you can talk, I think the cave system needs to be brought up, so where the masculine is kind of entombed, what happened to the masculine system, so why is it that it holds what it does, um, what the masculine initiation kind of looks like, because we're still going through it, but the images and some of the downloads that I got, there's something that's kind of being laid out, and of course I don't have all the answers of all of this, but there's something that really wants to be shown with that, because it is kind of like your old tools get taken from you and you have to surrender, but you're still the pursuer force, so you still have to continue. And then there's a huge releasal. And then also, what does it mean for masculine stability? How does that happen? What is that? And what form is it? And then that's a big one. What does it mean to be a masculine on a feminine planet? Because that is important to reclaim. Really, really important. So, this is kind of like the introduction to this series. Um, yeah, I'm excited for that. So, we'll open the door and we'll let it flow in. So, with that, I am probably done for the day. Thank you. Sending everybody who listens to this lots of love. And yeah, I'm looking forward to how this all comes in. So, with that, have a beautiful rest of your day. I hope you enjoy the gift of the day, of the breath of the sun or the rain or the snow. And say hi to the natural features that are in the place you're in, whether that's, the river or the mountain or the ocean or, you know, so have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you. Take care.